everyone has problems and fears, but when you're in the fear loop, the only way that I can help you, or a coach can help you, or you can help yourself, is if you can create as much specificity around what exactly the problem is. I can't believe it. You know how many years ago Rocky V was released?
Let me just take a random guess. 92?
90.
Wow. Damn. And so now you did something on that, though,
Yeah.
right? What'd you do on that?
I was a fluffer.
Well, obviously.
Can we leave all this shit in this time?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course. Good. Yeah, I was a fluffer for Stallone. So it was a cool story was I'd contacted Ringside Boxing Products. They're out of Lenexa, Kansas, and started pitching ideas for some equipment for self-defense, including like my high gear and maybe having them manufacture it because they were doing really cool stuff. And I helped them modify the angle of their face saver, which was this really revolutionary boxing headgear that protected you from getting a broken nose and stuff. So I ended up flying down there, and John Brown, who owned Ringside at the time, he said, I got the next great white hope. I've got the heavyweight champion of the world. And I was like, okay, cool. He says, yeah, you got to see this kid. So I get there, and there's a young Tommy Morrison, at the gym working out, and he's massive, and he's like, I don't know, he's 230 pounds, all muscle, no neck, like a real cowboy,
right?
Farmer strength. And he goes, and I've been getting close to this guy, John Brown, like pitching him my innovative approach to isolation drill training. And, there's no such thing as muscle memory. There's neural patterns. And if you train a certain way. So he says, and I'm like, at the time, 1990, I'm not going to have you guess my weight now, but at the time, I'm like 180 pounds.
Okay.
Super lean, like, middleweight boxing. And this, you like the boxing game, you're a big Ali fan. There's weight divisions in boxing for a reason, right?
Right.
You could be a good driver and I could be a good driver, but if you're driving a Prius and I'm driving a Ford Raptor, it doesn't matter how good a driver you are.
Yeah.
Like size matters in a fight. And which is funny because there's a myth in martial arts that size doesn't matter.
Right. True.
Right? So I always go like, why would you tell people that? It's stupid. Size absolutely matters. And if skill is equal and will is equal, size is a huge factor.
Definitely, yeah.
Right?
Sure.
So if you and I agree to kill each other no matter what, and you're 240 and I'm a 180.
Right.
So anyhow, long story short, I'm standing there watching him moving around the ring and doing stuff, and John says, hey, jump in there and do some drills with him. And I'm like, like what? Like I'm 180 and he's like 230.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're just drills. But he hit me in one of the drills we did. He hit me with a body shot where I took it off the forearm, and I felt, what's that thing with the balls? That like physics thing with the balls where you pull it and you drop
I don't know
it.
the name of it, but I know
they don't move, but the one on the end moves.
Right.
Like I was a human version of that.
Yeah.
Like he hit me here and this arm moved and I felt everything. And he was so strong and fast for a heavyweight. We became friends, and then I was doing stuff with John.
Was he like 22 at the time?
I don't even remember.
Okay.
Man, I don't even remember, honestly. What was crazy is I didn't realize that he died 10 years ago. Morrison.
Wow.
Right? So I didn't realize, I felt like it was like yesterday. And
how did he die? I can't remember.
Very, very controversial. There was rumors that he had HIV, tested positive, then he tested negative, and then there's a whole, and that's part of what this documentary that I was involved with yesterday, because his wife and the people around are trying to clear his name for his legacy, and they're doing this documentary because there's a lot of weird weird stuff. Like anyways, I don't know the facts because when all that stuff happens, I try to just. I'm like, whatever. And they asked me that in the documentary yesterday. But the history going back super quick is John calls me, Brown, the ringside guy. He calls me and he goes, hey, how flexible is your schedule? I go, well, I work for myself. It's pretty flex. I mean, I got shit to do, but what do you got? He said, could you go, Tommy got a role in a movie and I need somebody to stay with him because he's still got fights after the movie. We need his boxing. Could you go and make sure he does his road work, do pads with him, like a couple weeks at a time? I said I might be able to do that. Like what? Give me more details. He said, oh, it's with Stallone, Rocky 5, and I'm like, hold on a second, let me check my schedule. Clear, right? It was like duh,
Yeah.
and because, like you've got certain iconic. People in your life that, and like your wall at the old studio and stuff.
Yeah.
Stallone
would be one of them.
Yeah,
for me
and,
too.
and Stallone.
Yeah.
Stallone was that for me.
Yeah.
At 16, Rocky came out, right? And I'm, you go see it, and everyone like that's the story, right?
Yep.
And so I'm like, holy shit! So I go there. I just got goosebumps now. So I go there and. I got so many Stallone stories, man, like really cool ones. But I get there and I'm just hanging out on the set in Philly, run the stairs, like, is anyone looking? Fucking run the stairs.
Yeah.
Down, do that,
Yeah.
do that. And I don't know if you've ever seen the picture of me, Stallone and Tommy at the top with the,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
So so we do all that, but I got really close to Tommy. I went to L.A. One day Chuck Norris pops by the set to have a meeting with Stallone, and I'm there going like I'm there like at the meeting, and there's me, Tommy, and Stallone and Chuck Norris, and I'm like going, is this real? It's like pinching myself like crazy.
Now hold on real quick. On the set of Rocky 5, how much interaction did you have with Stallone? And
a lot, only because, and this is a fun story, and like he's very protected and very guarded because everyone wants to go, and have a piece of him. So I'm trying to find a way. Now I've worked on a bunch of movies in the past, stunt work, little acting bits and stuff like that. And
do you ever have lines?
yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Not like big dramatic.
Like long monologues, like Orson Welles level, like. No. Like, yeah, I'll send you some.
Right.
Well, I was in a movie with Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's son.
Yeah.
So I had lines in that. There was another, like I'm shit and they're shit movies, but it was like, it was that time, it was the 80s. You're like, it was the 80s. You're not going to be a movie star. I'm going to be a rock star.
Yeah.
I had a band. I played. I had a studio like this. I wrote music and stuff.
Yeah.
And just I'm having flashbacks, man, because some of that's a blur. There might have been prohibitive things involved in those days, but like for example, this is kind of neat. I don't know that we've ever talked about this in detail. 20 years old, have my own gym, and one of my students comes in and goes, remind me to finish the Stallone story. One of my students comes in and he goes, hey, Sugar Ray Leonard's fighting Roberto Duran at the Olympic Stadium in Montreal. And I'm like, oh my God. And I look at the guy and I go, I cannot wait to meet Leonard. He's like, he does stuff in the ring that Bruce Lee wrote about. And I read somewhere that Sugar Ray Leonard is a huge Bruce Lee fan. I can't wait to meet him. And my two students, one of my instructors, go like, what do you mean you can't wait to meet him? How are you going to meet him? I go, I don't know. I'll figure it out. Like I just do that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so I had like 4 real.
Yeah, that would be
1980.
Okay.
1980,
Yeah.
right? You weren't even born then, I don't think.
No, I was born in 74.
I'm joking. And sure enough, I'm like hanging out with Sugar Ray Leonard. I'm playing 21 with him in a private basketball court. He gave me like kit that only his team has. It said Franklin Boxing, Sugar Ray Leonard.
Sick.
and you couldn't buy it anywhere. It was never for sale. Never, just his entourage and his team, and so Sugar Ray Leonard was a childhood hero of mine.
Who won the
boxing.
game of 21?
I let him win.
Okay.
No, I suck. And but what was crazy is like I'm doing stuff with I'd shoot a shot and I turn and he's like, it's the week before the fight, so he's like starting to visualize. So in between shots, and the reason he didn't play, the setup is actually like a fun story. I keep rushing stories and editing them, but we can just talk.
Yeah.
Right. And you've never heard this story, so
No.
this is cool for you. I'm at this arena called the Paul Sauvé Arena where Duran and Leonard are doing like exhibit warm-ups. All the fans come together, the hype before the fight. And I've got an old copy of not Sports Illustrated. The magazine's no longer around. I forget Sport Times or something like.
Okay.
And he was on the cover of it. So I brought Sharpie and pen in a bag. And I make my way up to the door, and like it's sardines, and the security around it is insane. Montreal's a big boxing town, and like just security everywhere. And I hear one of the security guys. It's 1980. I'm 20 years old. There's two massive guys at the front door, and I go, man. He says, I've never seen. He says security like this. Like we gotta like sign something to tell them we're going to the bathroom. We gotta let everyone know. It's just insane. And I happen to be doing some private coaching in an old school. It was like it was an old basketball court, but like all wood, like antique, gorgeous, like built in the 40s or 50s, like
Okay.
just beautiful. And I had the key to it, and I was doing like some private training there for some team, and I hear these guys go, man, we can't even go to the bathroom without getting a signature. So I lean into the guy and go, how would you guys like to play basketball in a private court? No media, no fans, no people. He goes, what are you talking about? I said, look, here's my card. I can make this happen. And I tell him a little bit. Director of security calls me, tells me to come meet them at the hotel. I think it was like they were staying at the Omni Hotel in Montreal. I go there to meet with the guy. I set this thing up, and I go there, and nobody knows. Like there's like everyone knows they're going, but there's no media announcement or nothing, right? So I'm sitting there waiting, and Kenny Leonard, it was a Kenny or Roger Leonard. Leonard's brother was his like manager. He comes up to me, says, "Hey, do you have a car?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, one of the drivers screwed up something and we're missing a car, so I need you to take Ray over. And I'm like, that's what I call him. I call him Ray too,
Yeah.
right? And I'm like, sure. And it's the first time I meet him. I come down. He comes down, meets me. He shakes hands like this, Jay.
Oh no.
Like completely. And I'm like, it
Really?
freaks me out because I was expecting at least you're
Yeah.
a fighter, right?
Yeah.
Super. And I had a Monza. You know what that is? It's like it's like smaller than a Camry
Okay.
at the time, and the windows in the back don't roll down. There's those little latches where you pop them open.
Yeah.
His security guards, the two bouncers with him, bodyguards with him, were massive. They literally, I'm not joking, had to open the windows for their elbows to get in the back of the car. He sits in the car, and I've met this guy like a minute ago, shook hands with him. My brain is still going, what kind of handshake was that, right? I'm like, right? And I've got, the hand grips in my car, my console, and he sits down, and he puts his foot up on the console, and he grabs the grip, and he goes, because they squeak, and he goes, how's your day going, Toe? And I literally want to throw up. My voice goes like this. I go, pretty good. Excuse me.
Yeah.
I'm not freaking out right now that Sugar Ray Leonard's in my car.
Yeah.
On the way there, I say to him, I go, dude, like you do things in the ring that Bruce Lee could only write about in the Tao Jeet Kune Do. Why do you have like two of the biggest guys in the world? He said, he says, when I go out, if it's to dance or for a drink or for dinner, I just want to be left alone. I'm nice to my fans. He says, but he says, there's people that they come up to you. He's a small guy, 147 pounds. It's like, oh, and there's like assholes that
Yeah.
get in his face. And he says, he looks at me, he goes, when I go out at night, I don't want to work. And this is my job, right? And then he explained after that he always does that because a lot of people, because they know him, would give him a hard grip. So it immediately kind of like diffuses it because you react to how soft it is.
Yeah.
And also, like boxers' hands, they can be bruised or sprained, or you don't want somebody crunching them. Anyways, super cool. So we get to the gym. He can't, because the fight's in a week, he can't risk jamming a thumb or, coming down from a shot with someone and getting an elbow in the face, right? Like this place, 80,000 people at the Olympic Stadium, like massive 15-round fights back then. Anyhow, so that's my Sugar Ray Leonard story. We stayed in touch. He came back for some meetings for some tax stuff a little while later. And this is super cool. You'll dig this because one of my other heroes, of course, is Bruce Lee. And I had at the time, after that fight, I moved to L.A. to help build the Bruce Lee Museum, World of Bruce Lee Museum. And they couldn't pay us anything. It was me and a buddy. We slept on the floor in West Hollywood at this place while we built it.
How'd you even get that gig?
I was doing all in this, it was the 80s, remember, everything happens. Yeah. And that was my incubator period, actually. I wrote, there's no email, I wrote a letter to Black Belt Magazine saying, hey, I have this vision for kind of a martial arts system where, and I'm paraphrasing, I said, I believe that there should be as many self-defense systems as there are people practicing self-defense. And I went on to explain, meaning if I were going to tell you how to be the safest J possible, what resonated with you and how you moved would be unique to you because of your age, your fascia, your connective tissue, ectomorph, mesomorph, your fitness. Right. Are you a runner? Or you got a low center of gravity? And people don't realize that your psychology, your beliefs, all influence how you're going to fight.
Yeah.
And because you've trained with me a little bit, it's all about neurobiology and kinesiology and psychology. So if that's truly the science of self-defense, then it would linear logically make sense that if I said, here's how to optimize, your movement for self-defense, then that would become a unique protocol for you. Mm-hmm. In the same way, we can understand the principles of diet and exercise, but if you've got like injuries or other issues or lifestyle, you got to build a routine that works for you.
Yeah.
And this as one of the best coaches and trainers in the world, like the best routine is the one you're going to do.
Sure.
Because everyone buys stuff and then they go,
they
never do it.
Yeah.
So, I wrote a letter to Black Belt Magazine, and they wrote a letter back saying, yeah, we'll put you in the magazine. And I had no money. I borrowed money from my mom to fly to California. I still get goosebumps when I drive here, and I live here now, because I'm driving here and I'm seeing all, I grew up in the 60s, so I saw all the Hollywood sign and all the sets and all that, and I've just been nostalgically attracted to all that. And I remember having to pull off the road on the way to Black Belt Magazine to dry heave. I was so scared and so nervous. And I talk about this now because you know how big fear management is part of my company, my teaching, the whole No Fear program. And it's all about managing fear. Like I could have rationalized, spelled the cute way, irrational hyphen lie. I could have rationalized not going or whatever. But I took the meeting, I went there, and it was just that element of, do I believe I belong on the world stage? Do I really believe in my stuff? What I didn't have was experience in business and interviews and talking and public speaking. So everything was like, holy shit. And it wasn't imposter syndrome. I just didn't know. I just wanted to throw up.
Yeah.
And so I don't have anything to throw up because I wasn't hungry. So I'm on the road going, I get back in the car, wipe off the cold sweat. I drive to the parking lot, park there. As I'm parking, Chuck Norris is walking out. It's 1980. I'm like going, holy shit, right? Then another legend, Bong Soon-han, is in the. He's a famous Hapkido guy. He's in there. And then while I'm sitting there waiting, is this guy Norman Barine. I can't remember. I just remembered his name because this is 1980. And he was a guy who was obsessed with Bruce Lee, and had put together the World of Bruce Lee concept. And we just started talking while I was waiting for my meeting.
What year did Bruce Lee die?
1973.
Okay.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like, how many years ago was that?
50.
Insane.
Yeah.
So, so we exchange information, and he goes, "Yeah, I got to build this, but we don't have money, we don't have hands." And I'm like, "I'll move out here and help you build it. Like, what's involved?" He says, "Well, we just got to put it together." And he says, "But I can't pay you. I mean, I could pay you maybe $25 a week." Literally, 1980. $25 a week, dude. We can talk for hours on this.
Holy
that period.
shit.
With that $25 a week, all I did is buy peanut butter and white bread.
Right.
And once a week, me and my friend Trace, who's my first student, we would go and buy a Happy Meal at McDonald's to treat us ourselves.
And where were you living?
On the floor at the World of Bruce Lee Museum. We didn't even have showers. We had to go to the YMCA to shower every few days. It was insane.
Holy shit.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that part of me. I did that for about half a day, and I couldn't take it. I moved back to Beverly Hills. I just stopped fucking with you. I did that for I don't even remember, a couple of months. Man, I would like I looked like I was in a concentration camp.
Damn.
Because I was still training. I had crazy stories.
Now wait, hold on. What
Yeah.
were you doing in Montreal at the time that you were like, "Fuck it, I'll just move there for 25 bucks"?
I hadn't opened up my school yet. I started working with my dad. I was living up in the Laurentians, with him, and I was working a job I fucking hated, as a shipper at his company. And it was like, "Hey, do you want to help build the World of Bruce Lee Museum?"
Yeah.
Like literally, like in the showcase, they had allegedly, the Game of Death track suit with the footprint from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah.
They had Bruce Lee's nunchakus. And I will tell you this, because the place is closed now, I put that shit on and worked out in that stuff.
Really?
Oh yeah. I got pictures of us, with the nunchakus and the suit on, they had this magazine's no longer around, Fighting Stars magazine, when it opened. It had like amazing pictures, like black and white color pictures from all the stuff. And then there was the opening day had Fighting Stars magazine, a bunch of other magazines, and all these famous Jeet Kune Do guys back then. Grace Lee, Bruce's mom, was still alive. Linda Lee was there, and the kids, and what was crazy, just like again pinched me, because years later I became really good friends with Brandon Lee,
Right.
and then went to Hong Kong, worked with him, and a crazy story. This is a crazy story. We go, his movie in Hong Kong, these movies, like when you finish it, like 2 weeks later, the movie's released.
Oh,
it's
no
not
shit.
like they work, things happen so fast.
Right.
So we're like, we finish filming the movie, and then like the premiere is like a week or two later. So we're in Hong Kong, and Brandon says, "Hey, we go to the airport to pick up my mom." And there's this famous black and white picture of Bruce Lee picking up Steve McQueen at I think it's Kai Tech, or I can't remember the name of it's this, and that's where you wait for people to come out.
Yeah.
And I'm standing there, and all of a sudden I'm looking, and I'm going, "Oh my God!" And I flash back to this picture, and suddenly Linda Lee comes out, and she's with, I think she's with Shannon, and I go to help with the bags, and they're staying at the Peninsula Hotel, and I hadn't noticed as I grabbed the bag, I'm walking, I look down, I'm going like, she's very well dressed. They figured out how to, create the Bruce Lee Foundation, and they're doing okay. And she's got all these nice stuff, and I'm carrying like these two torn, beaten up suitcases that are like frayed on the edges, and I'm like, why this?
Yeah.
And I'm carrying and I'm walking, and I notice the edge there because I'm looking at her nice fancy suitcase, and I look down, and as I come down, I look at my hands, there's initials on the suitcase.
Wow.
BL.
Wow.
Dude, like I was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that shit.
Yeah.
Like I freak out.
That's
like
amazing.
energetically,
Yeah.
I dig that stuff. So, so yeah,
Is she still alive?
Linda, yeah,
She is.
yeah. In insane. I stayed friends with Brandon for years. We trained together. He visited me in Montreal. One of my favorite Brandon stories is we're at this sushi bar. You know how I love sushi, and you do too. Did you see the sushi post I did this morning? You got to see my Instagram. You should probably show it right now. But it's. I'm going to make you look at it right now on the show.
All right. Let's see.
What if sushi is a scam? They act like it's special, but they really just didn't want to cook your food.
What is it?
It's just a random joke. I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I reposted it, and people love it, except you didn't. But
Yeah.
We're at the sushi bar, and Bruce's genetics are insane, and Brandon had all of Bruce's facial expression. Like when he'd do certain things, if he was talking and he did the fists and he did that, you could see it in his eyes and his face.
Yeah.
It was insane. And I never once. I remember my dad coming to me, later in the '80s when I was already in like 10 or 15 magazines and at a 6,000-foot school and ring and starting to do seminars and really getting my name out there. He comes to me and he says, like, why don't you have testimonials or pictures with you? You've met Chuck Norris, you've met Sugar Ray Leonard. And I said, I will never exploit those relationships. I don't want anybody training with me because I know somebody famous. I want them to do their research and train with me because they go, well, that really resonates with me. I'm a critical thinker, and that really resonates with me.
Yeah.
And so I never, like when people are around, like I didn't call up the sushi bar and go, hey man, VIP, I want a private table. Like we just went in late. We're on our second bottle of sake and closing the bar, and I'm friends with the owner, and he's making us stuff. And all of a sudden he looks at me, and he's Oriental, and he looks at Brandon, and we're pissed, right? Like second bottle of big sake, and he looks at Brandon, and he goes,
You're pissed? Why? What do you mean?
pissed, drunk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha. Yeah. I thought you were
We're sorry.
pissed
No.
off. Yeah.
We're shit faced.
Yeah.
And he goes, he looks at him, he goes, anyone ever tell you look like Bruce Lee? And I hit Brandon in the shoulder. I go, look at me. I go, maybe a little bit in the eyes, but you guys all, and he starts laughing, and he goes, people have told me that, like, and I never told the guy to this day
Really?
that was Bruce Lee's son. In his, like, I just,
Yeah.
So, Brandon and I were really close, and I met him at an acting workshop in L.A. like years later.
Yeah, I remember you told me that.
And then and I was on the set of The Crow like 3 weeks before the accident, and
Wow.
just craziness, but still leading to the Stallone thing. So Sugar Ray Leonard gave me the Franklin boxing thing. My other big childhood hero, Robert Conrad, the original Wild Wild West.
Okay.
Baba Black Sheep. I mean, if you know him,
Yeah.
badass fighter. Was like a could have been a pro boxer, martial artist, and got his start on Wild Wild West because the star got sick or injured, but he had been just intuitively learning his lines. I think it was maybe a stunt double. And he's like, they're like, oh shit, this, and he goes, I know his lines. And Conrad was like a really good looking, fit. So I mean, that's how he got his start. He became a movie star.
Wow.
So I'm going, holy shit, I've met Sugar Ray Leonard. And now Robert Conrad is doing a movie, and I was doing stunt work at the time. So I go in, and we're about the same size. So I end up getting the role as a stunt double. And the first day on the set, I wear the shirt Sugar Ray Leonard gave me, knowing it's like, he's going to be like, he would know that you can't buy that shirt.
Yeah.
So I'm over at the craft table, standing in his eye line, wearing the shirt, bagel over here, coffee over here, doing this. And I see him look at it, and he looks at me, and and he goes like this, and he walks over. He goes, You box? I go, a little. He goes, you have a gym? I go, yeah, I got a gym. He goes, you have any heavy bags? I go, 10. And a ring. He said, I'll see you tomorrow, 6 a.m. And he started training at my gym.
Where was your gym at the time?
In Montreal. Like
Okay.
they were filming all over, but
Yeah. Like Center City, Montreal?
yeah.
Okay.
Do you have you been in Montreal?
No.
So
I'm just trying to.
there's a famous burger hot dog joint called the Orange Julep. It's like this giant, massive.
Yeah.
It looks like it's literally like a 100-foot orange ball.
Okay.
It's insane. It was down near there, but we got close. I stayed in touch with him. I got insane stories, man. Like these are like I'm tripping out now thinking these things. Like
Yeah.
one time I came to visit him here, so he invites me to where I think Boa Steakhouse is on
Sunset?
On Sunset
Okay.
now, but it was another restaurant at the
Yeah.
time. And we're sitting there and he was the president of SAG at the time, and he had invited me out. And here's a great example. After when I stunt doubled him, we became friends, and all these guys connected with me because I truly trained. It wasn't like, oh, you want to be a movie star? Well, get in line, right? It was like he saw me at the gym. When he came in, I was already there 5:30 in the morning. I had one of my guys come in, one of my assistant instructors said, Dan, Robert Conrad's coming in, and he's like a childhood hero of mine, and we're going to be in the ring sparring. And he walks in. Says, okay, cool. So just as the door opens, I look at Dan. I go, I'm so sorry. And he goes, what? And I just fucking just open up on him because I wanted Conrad. Dude, I hit him with the combo that Leonard hit Hearns with, like 26 punches in a row.
Yeah.
Like, Dan, I'm so sorry. What? Wham! Like it was, and Conrad is like standing watching, and it was like unprecedented. I really and Conrad goes, man, I wouldn't want to meet you in an alley, and so we became buddies. I actually,
That's great.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
But oh shit, I was in the middle of another classic. So I go meet him. I stay in touch with him. I went to his ski house. We met for dinner years later. And talking about fear, like he said to me, hey, if you really want to be in the industry, I'll give you a job at my production studio. And it was like right when the stunt work, it was like, I was, let's say 28. And I was too scared to do it, man. Did not leave Canada. Here's a guy, he goes, look, I'm not going to make you the star of a thing, but come out and learn the business. And I was like, I was too scared. My business was going well. I was married. And the fear of just closing everything and relocating and starting over.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thing that I talk about when I coach people on that psychology, because that's the rational lie.
Yeah.
You go, now things are okay, and where if you closed your eyes, and there's a great line, and I just forgot the authors, the 3 questions. A famous spiritual speaker, he says, if you didn't know what you did, and you looked at all the jobs in the world,
Oh, right. Yeah.
what job would you want to do? Why aren't you doing it?
Yeah.
And if you didn't know where you lived, you looked all over the world,
Right.
right? Where would you want to live? Why aren't you living there? And if you looked in the mirror and you didn't know how old you were, how old would you think you were? I love that one.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Because but anyways.
It's so interesting. In 1999, I was training a celebrity who was on a TV show, and we came out here. So they lived in Jersey, and my gym was mainly all athletes and everything at the time, but I had a few regular people, and so we would come out here occasionally and hang out. And in the 90s, we're partying up on Sunset and everything. We're going to the Playboy Mansion, all these sick parties. I'm like, this is unbelievable.
Right.
And they kept saying, like, why don't you come out here and train XYZ on the show? And it was the same thing. I was scared. I didn't want to shut down my gym. And I was also like, well, I'm doing my thing with athletes. What am I going to do? Train celebrities? That'd be so weird. And then for years, you always reflect on that decision. Like, I wonder what would have been different.
Yeah.
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 But I think it was fear too, that like I'm going to start over. Everything you just said there was
It
the
is.
same thing.
We've got to. We need to. The biggest strength, and it only arrives through experience and wisdom and in time, is creating self-awareness. Because self-awareness allows you, like if somebody had said to me when I was 28, why didn't you take that job with Robert Conrad? I'd have looked at him, I go, that's stupid. I got this here. I got like 100 students, and I wouldn't have said, well, when I really thought about it, my heart started to race, and I had butterflies in my stomach, and and back then I didn't understand the difference between the biology or physiology of fear and the psychology of fear. The most important thing that we could teach people, especially kids these days, and anyone listening to this, is there is a huge difference between the biology and physiology of fear, the sensations, the shift from parasympathetic to sympathetic and all that. Why am I sweating? Why am I nervous? Because immediately when that starts to happen, your brain by default needs to manufacture a movie in your mind to support why you feel like that. And it'll just throw shit at you. And that's the chaos of meditating, right? Where you're trying to follow your breath, and next thing you know, like you're going, I should buy a new toaster, and do elephants really fly, and weird thoughts. So being able to control what you're visualizing in your mind is really the gateway to self-awareness. And better self-awareness allows you, I think he's a physicist maybe, or a scientist, Richard Feynman. Do you know the name?
I know the name.
So my favorite quote of his, probably the only one that I've pseudo-memorized, is, the first rule is to never fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool. Right?
Yeah.
And so we rationalize why we needed a new car, or we needed a new materialistic thing, or why this didn't work out. And really it's usually something different.
Yep.
But you don't realize it until, what was important to you when you were 20 is very different than 30, 40, 50.
Yeah.
And same for everyone listening to this. So.
I always think it's so powerful though, like when someone like yourself expresses that, you go through all the same stuff that you teach.
To this day.
Yeah. Like I was having a conversation with Jason Redman, former Navy SEAL and whatnot, and he was explaining some stressful thing that he was going through, and he was like, here I am, get off the X guy, and I can't get the fuck off the X. Like, we all go through it. Recently, I don't know, maybe a month ago, I released a podcast telling a story that I've told you and everything about, Bronx and how that kind of downward spiraled, and I lost my confidence. And the funniest thing is, since I've been back here 4 separate times, people that I thought had all the confidence in the world, first time, we've been friends for 10 years, told me, hey man, I struggle with self-confidence sometimes. I'm like, oh, you never told me that in 10 years. They're like, yeah, because I thought you were the most confident person in the world, and it wasn't until you shared that you lost your confidence. It's interesting.
Yeah.
But everybody goes through that.
Yeah. So one of our slogans, I think I gave you the shirt when you trained with me in Florida. Fear is contagious, but so is courage.
Yeah.
Right. Choose courage.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's especially, you're not a good athlete or kind of a type A alpha male. But that was a joke, right? But like when someone sees somebody who's like ripped and strong, and this, and talking about like the discipline of showing up, which is what you do, but that's, our bodies are our facades. Our mind is really, right? And so, like that's like truly, as cliche as it is, that self-awareness is the superpower.
Yeah.
The why we do and don't do things is all connected to our relationship with fear. I believe that you can unpack and peel any onion, metaphoric onion, all the way down. At the end of it is, well, I was afraid that, right? It's, if we could connect to that, we would apologize faster. We would say, I love you faster. We would say no faster. We'd say yes faster. Because what we do is like the root cause of procrastination in my research and system is a fear spike that creates doubt, and doubt creates hesitation. Hesitation creates procrastination.
Right.
But if I go, well, why didn't you send in that resume, or why didn't you, go meet that guy about the new gym or do that?
Yeah.
I got busy, and then this came up, and this. No.
Right.
Right? I mean, I don't know if we should mention his name, right? But right, our meeting in at Bedros event with
Yeah.
our mutual friend.
Yeah.
Like, what are you waiting for?
Right.
If you peel the onion, he goes, well, I'm busy and I'm taking care of this and I'm doing that. No, you're afraid it's not going to work, or you're afraid that it's too much work, or you're afraid of, doesn't
One
matter
of
what it
those.
is.
Yeah, totally.
But until you can figure out what it is, you can't create. You know, if I say to you, look, I got to lose my love handles. If my erroneous belief is that you can spot reduce, right? Then you go, no, you can't, man. That's a diet thing. That's a nutrition thing. But until I tell you exactly what I want, and I'm open to listen, there's no solution to it.
Yeah.
A great, I don't know if I shared this with you, but it just popped in my head, because it's like we're having a conversation, but I also want to be mindful and respectful that people are listening to us, right? It's like, you guys go to bed. Jay and I are just talking, right? We'll still be talking when you wake up. I'm coaching this guy for a title fight, and it's amateur kickboxing, and it's 4 rounds. Have I ever told you this, the 4-round fight story?
No.
So this is great, but it's not just like another fight story, coach story. It's like everyone can get something from this. We're sitting at the bottom in the Paul Sauvé Arena, which is this old arena in Montreal. It's in the 80s. And like, it's one of these places like from Rocky 1, you know, paint peeling off the wall and stuff like that. And and it's so cool. My heart is pounding. I'm nervous as shit. I'm not fighting. I'm friggin' terror. Like, I get more nervous when friends or my own players fight.
Totally.
And I'm like, but the facade, you got to be like, yeah, we got this. We're good.
Right.
Throw up. Oh, right. And he goes, so Sean, this kid Sean, he's shadow boxing. He's moving around. And we go, I go, how do you feel, Sean? He goes, great, coach. I'm nervous, you know, but I feel good. I go, well, you're supposed to be nervous. You're about to get in a fight. And it's a kickboxing match, right? The guy's going to try and kick you in the face and punch you in the face. And it was the 80s. It was Roberto Duran era, Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler. I said, so even in the most fierce guy in the 80s at this time was Duran, hands of stone, where he'd stare people down. And I go, no matter what the guy looks like standing across from you, he's giving you his Roberto Duran stare down, inside his heart is pounding. His adrenaline is raging through his system, just like you, but you can't see it. So just remember, he's feeling what you're feeling too. And I stop. And I'm thinking like I'm Burgess Meredith, and I'm going, yeah, Rocky, you got this. Like I just did this really cool. This is the scene that got cut from Rocky, right?
Yeah.
And Sean looks at me, he goes, thanks, coach. And he turns around and starts shadow boxing. And I'm like, I look at my assistant, and I go, like, kind of proud of myself. And something starts to bug me. Like, my intuition's going, something's off. And this is when I was just forming our No Fear program. And for those of you who are phonetically spelling it in your mind, it's not N-O fear, it's K-N-O-W fear. How do you get to no fear? How do you change your relationship with fear? And I'm still like working it out here. And one of the things I always tell people is trust your intuition. There's no downside to trusting your intuition. So I'm there, Jay, and I'm like this. Why? Something's bothering me. What did I say? Like, okay, you were a little too proud of your boxing speech. Was it that? No, something's bothering me. And then I realized what it was. I gave Sean oh, you'll be okay answer. Like, you come up to me and you go, hey, you know, something's really bothering me about some life decisions. Everyone goes through that, Jay. Life's a roller coaster ride.
Right.
Okay, where do you want to go? We didn't talk, right?
Yeah.
You know somebody for 10 years and you bump into him and you go, hey man, you okay? You look like distracted. Oh yeah. I was just working on something. Because he wants to say, I'm fucking scared, man. I've lost my confidence. But we don't, especially guys, we don't talk this way.
Yeah.
We say things we use cliches and Zen fortune cookies, right?
Yep.
You know, the difference between the hero and the coward is what they do with their fear. Right. Oh, okay. Like, the enemy is fear itself. Okay, thanks. Like, what are we doing with that?
Yeah.
So it's nagging at me, and I look at him, and I'm starting to think, what could he be afraid of? Well, I've trained other fighters, and I've had guys lie to me about the road work, and like at the end of the second round, they're sitting there like this, going, and I go, you didn't do your road work, did you? Well. Hey, this is going to be a very long fight for you, man.
Yeah.
Right? I got nothing for you. Coach, I need a, no, you didn't do your road work. You lied to me.
Right.
You want me to throw in the towel, or you want to keep going? Like, and that's my coaching.
Yeah.
Like, don't bullshit me. So I've had guys that are like injured but didn't want to tell you, and I'm going, maybe his mom's at ringside, and he's never. And I'm trying to figure out.
Okay.
And this is going like seconds have gone by, and I go, Sean, what are you nervous about? He goes, what? I go, what are you nervous about? He goes, it's nothing. It's stupid. Well, why would you say it if it's stupid? He goes, nah, I don't even want to talk about it. I go, well, then tell me if it's stupid. And he goes, it's stupid. I go, tell me. He goes, I've never done 4 rounds. I've done 10 rounds in the gym, but I've never done 4 rounds. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I feel like I'm thinking about that too much. And in kickboxing, you have like a minimum 8 kick count per round. You got to get 8 kicks in, or you lose a point. So if you got a fighter or an athlete who's worrying about whether he's going to have gas in later rounds, that's going to affect how he moves in the early rounds. Like he's going to, I don't want to get hit. I don't want to,
Yeah.
And you can make mistakes and you could lose on points because you're not aggressive. And I would have never guessed that, Jay. And I said to him, I looked at him right away, and I said, can you do 2 rounds? And he's like, well, yeah, of course. I said, so just do 2 rounds twice. And he smiles, and that's what he did. At the end of the second round in the ring, I go, can you do 2 rounds? He goes, absolutely. And he went out and won the title that night. And the metaphor here is like some of you, like everyone watching this might go, I'm not a kickboxer. What's it got to do with me? Is what we oftentimes do is we look at the overwhelming big picture, get nervous about it, and we don't drill down because if you can pinpoint what is making you nervous. Like I go, Jay, you got this big speech in front of 2,000 people. You got to do that. And you're like, and I go, what are you nervous? Are you afraid of public speaking? Well, I've seen you speak. You're a great speaker. If the last time, let's say, and this happened to me once where a cable didn't work and the presentation I prepared, they couldn't do it. And I had to it was a shit show. Like it's now whiteboard instead of keynote. And it really changed the energy, and I was sweating, and I was like, and that that accident turned into a whole bunch of protocols in our company for our trainers. In backup stuff, in testing your equipment. And, I'd get a phone call at 6 a.m. from another time zone. Hey, my computer crashed. What? They just paid us to go deliver something and we'll use your backup on your thumb drive.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't do that. Oh, whoa. Okay. But the idea in the boxing story is this for everybody is like everyone has problems and fears. But when you're in the fear loop, the only way that I can help you or a coach can help you or you can help yourself is if you can create as much specificity around what exactly the problem is. And then and now suddenly if we take care of that, you're back in the game.
Is it almost similar to like in sales when you say, hey, I want to get a 6-pack, and I go, why do you want to get a 6-pack? Because I look better on the beach. And I go, why do you want to look better on the beach? Because my wife's more attracted to me. Why is that important to you? Because I'll have a better relationship. Like just chipping
100%.
away like that.
100%.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing, because also if somebody can acknowledge and write all that, that helps them. And you know this better than anyone, like motivation is fleeting.
Yeah.
Right? And discipline is an act.
Right.
So you text your client and you go, dude, did you do these things today? And I had an off day. If you go, he looked in the mirror and went, I look like shit. If you go, dude, I thought you wanted a 6-pack for the beach. Go, no, I'm not going to the beach. Like he can shut that down.
Yeah.
But if you can say, your kids,
right.
I remember my daughter, my weight has fluctuated over the years. And I remember my daughter one day, I'm sitting at the table saying, like some joke about me getting a bra or something. And we'll edit this out of this thing here. And, it was funny the way she said it.
Yeah.
And everyone laughed. And I laughed, but it was it was so painful.
Mm.
And literally my nutrition changed that day and my training changed that day. Where if you had called me up and said, you can't go to the beach like that, I'd have said, pass me another donut and
Yeah.
let's have another beer.
Right.
It wasn't that. It was like I want my kids to look up to me. And
Yeah.
if part of that is not having a dad bod, you know, and that's
Yeah.
like for me, I've got tactical reasons to be in shape
Sure.
because I teach self-defense. But imagine, and you're 100% right, if your list you're going to work out today is, well, you're going to have better sex, you're going to have a better relationship, your kids are going to look up to you, you're going to be a role model. Like none of that has anything to do with the vanity of
Yeah.
looking good, you know, naked or in a suit.
Right.
So 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the Stallone story. We never finished that.
Yeah, the Stallone story. So I forget which one I was going to tell you. The
So now I'm
there
trying to
are a
bring it.
bunch. I was on the why I told you why I went off and veered off into my life history was when Sugar Ray Leonard gave me the shirt. I used the shirt as a prop to create a relationship with Robert Conrad.
Right.
Right.
I love that.
And so I'm on the set of Rocky V, and I want to have a relationship. I want to be able to go like bucket list, Sugar Ray Leonard, superhero. Oh my God. I didn't just get an autograph and a picture. I hung out with him. I played
Yeah.
21. I saw him, and I never finished. When he came back to Montreal, I came in, I showed him the pictures from the World of Bruce Lee magazine. And I'm on the floor with Sugar Ray Leonard, literally on the floor on our knees, looking. He was down on stretching, and I brought the photo album down. And I'm saying, hey, that's Bruce Lee's Game of Death tracksuit. He goes, oh, I love that tracksuit. I always wanted to get one of those. I go, well, they sell them in Chinatown now. I'll go get you one. He goes, he gave me $200. I whipped out to Chinatown, bought Sugar Ray Leonard a Game of Death tracksuit, came back to his hotel, and hung out with him. Like, how insane is that? Like, but I'm sitting there on the
Yeah.
floor, like bumping shoulders, going,
Right.
look at this, look at
So
this,
crazy.
and like talking about Bruce Lee
Yeah.
to Sugar Ray Leonard.
Wow.
Fucking insane, dude.
Unbelievable.
So here I am on the set. I'm going bucket list, Sugar Ray Leonard, Robert Conrad. Who else do I have? Stallone, and then it's like Bruce Lee. But I'm not going to meet Bruce Lee, hopefully for a very long time, right? I mean, depending if you believe in that or not, right? So in 1986, I meet Brandon Lee. So now my next bucket list is I've now become friends with Bruce Lee's son.
Yeah.
Holy shit. 4 people that influenced and shaped like the man I wanted to be.
Right.
So I got 3 checklists. Now it's like Stallone. No way. Holy shit. And how am I going to get to him? So my brain this is the brain. Remember my student saying in 1980, Sugar Ray Leonard's fighting Duran. I go, I can't wait to meet him.
Yeah.
And they're like, how are you going to meet him? I don't know. I'll figure it out. How am I going to meet Stallone? So I'm on the set, and he's like guarded. He's like ushered around all the stuff. And you can imagine how big. It's Rocky V. It's not Rocky 1.
Right.
So like huge
Huge,
crew,
yeah.
security. You know, and you like even the extras, even if they were told, hey, don't, you know, they're there. They're like, Stallone's walking by.
Right.
So I walk by he's got like this really fancy bus. He's in there, and he's got like 2 like, you know, lions at the gate. You can't get in here. And I go, hey, is Mr. Stallone in? And they're just like, they didn't even answer. They're like, and I've got like a past credentials, but they're like, the fuck are you?
Yeah.
Right? And I go, yeah, I just I wanted to ask him a question. And they're like, hey man, like, and then while they're ushering me, the door opens and Stallone, like hero pose, like the doors of the bus open. He's standing there and he sees me talking. He's looking at me, and he goes, "You're the guy that works with Tommy Morrison, right?" And immediately my brain goes, "Yeah, I've got a boxing gym and a martial art gym, and they would all shit their pants if I had a picture from you that I could put on the wall in my gym." Knowing he would connect because he's a real athlete.
Yeah.
Like as much as he's a movie star, he's a
Right.
he's a physical culture
Yeah.
animal.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, let me see what I got, right? And he goes, come on in. And you should see the look of the two bodyguards, because his backs were to Stallone because they were down there. They're like, holy fuck! I just had done not the droids that you like, and I'm up in there, and dude, I just got goosebumps again. And he goes, let me see what I got here, and he finds this poster, like when he's ripped for Rambo. And he signs it. He goes, to Tony's boys, keep training, Sylvester Stallone. Big poster. And we're there and standing there, and I go, have you ever been to Montreal? That's where he says, oh yeah, sure. I said, like, I've done a lot of boxing with the Hilton brothers. Oh my God, the Hiltons. He knew who they were, like crazy family boxers. And yeah, my I don't know if you got to go, but like Sugar Ray Robinson was my favorite. Sugar Ray, and he sits down and he gestures for me to sit down, and we started just talking about fighting and boxing, and I'm telling him like stories, and I go, and I didn't tell you this, like when I was playing 21 with Sugar Ray, and he's shadow boxing. Most boxers post off their rear foot when they pivot.
Right.
I teach guys to post and to rotate off their lead foot for street fighting. And there's a reason, which I can't demo here unless I stood up, but I'd be out of frame.
Yeah.
And I'm there, and Leonard's doing this, and I go, hey, do you want to see something cool? And he goes, yeah, sure. Well, he was 23 at the time. I was 20. So like we were like peers. He just happened to be Sugar Ray Leonard.
Right.
And I was like, who are you? But like his whole entourage, they saw me like showing him like, but I was a born teacher. I love coaching.
Yeah.
So I'm coaching Sugar Ray Leonard on rotating his lead foot and lead hip versus the back one on the jab. And he's just doing it like as a sponge, as an athlete.
Yeah.
Hey, that's cool, Tony. Thanks, man. When I turned around, like his entourage are looking at me like, and I'll tell you when we're offline some other stuff, but stuff that I don't want to say on here. But they're like, what the fuck are you like giving Sugar Ray Leonard like a boxing class?
Right,
and all it was my obsession and passion with movement.
Yeah.
So I go and I go, I have a great Sugar Ray Leonard story, and I tell the same story to Stallone. So we stand up, and I go like do a jab, and we're in his trailer, and he does a jab, and I go, notice your rear heel came up here. I want to show you something with the lead heel, and I show him that we're doing that, and all of a sudden I realize I'm giving like a 1 minute private lesson to Sugar Ray to Sylvester Stallone in his trailer on the set of Rocky V, and we're just talking. And Jay, I stop and I go like this. I go, I got to say something, and he goes, what? And I go like we're just talking about fighting. We're like two athletes right now, right? He goes, yeah. And I go, in my head, I'm doing this. Ah! And I scream at him, and he laughs, and he punches me in the arm, and he says, dude, when I'm hungry, I eat. When I got to go to the bathroom, I go to the bathroom. And when I am tired, I go to sleep. I'm just a guy.
Yeah.
And that was fucking cool.
Wow.
Just insane, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, wild.
Crazy.
Wild.
On a day-to-day basis, what are, not like life-threatening situations, but what are things that you face, what fears do you face, right? Like a tough conversation, like that you have to address and any human being has to address, and how do you deal with some of those things?
I'm 63 now. So the biggest, the most frequent conversation is my whiny victim voice in my head that is not enjoying getting older. You know,
right.
that I've dealt with like serious nerve issues and neck and back and stuff like that. And it's persistent. It's like literally like a rock in your shoe that you can't get out.
Yeah.
And it's always there. And so the biggest one is that, and trying to always like reframe that as you know, like this morning getting out of bed, like I moved and some nerves zapped, and I was like, oh, and I was like, fuck. And then it was like, wait a minute. Like this is on a scale of 1 to 10, 100 times better than you were last year.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah,
that much better?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
But it's still like my shitty posture from decades of internal
Right.
rotation as a fighter.
Yeah.
It puts more stress on my nerves than somebody who had
Yeah.
better posture or was never an athlete.
Yeah.
So that's probably not the answer you expected, but I got other answers. But it's the self-talk,
Yeah.
you know. And you know, I grew up in the '60s where you were smacked by your parents, and things were like, you're gonna suck, you're not gonna make it.
Yeah.
So that's my voice. Like that's my voice, even though I know, like positivity, you know, you catch more bees with honey, right?
Yeah.
But like I'm like, if I talk to myself that way, I go, nice try, asshole, right? Like I catch it right away. So that's, I got to work double time on reframing where I'm at. I remember talking to my friend Eric Goodman, who developed foundation training,
Right.
and I remember experiencing some great progress using his modalities. And I called him one day, tears in my eyes. I hadn't been able to like run in almost 3 years, and I ran like 50 yards.
Wow.
Without cramping, without the pain.
How long ago was this?
This was a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And I called him up right away, and it was literally like, here I am. You talk about fear and fear management, and you know, hey, don't let the math beat you. You know, just do 2 rounds twice, right?
Yeah.
Here I am. I'm walking, and I noticed that my swagger, like Conor McGregor, I'm walking, not quite, but I'm walking, and I'm going, holy shit, because it would take me 20 minutes sometimes to walk. Take me 20 minutes to warm up where I could stand upright.
Wow.
The pain was so bad.
Yeah.
And so it was easy to quit, and I would do it a lot of times. I go, it's much easier to lie down in bed now than it is to go walk. And I remember one day noticing that I was kind of walking with a normal gait. And I tried to run a couple times before, and my legs would seize up. A couple times I almost fell. Just insane. My fingertips would go numb. Scary shit, man. And I said to myself, I wonder if I could run that 50 yards to that tree or that lamppost. And I was on a dirt trail, and immediately I'm walking, and all the fear thoughts. Well, what if your legs cramp? What if you fall? Like, well, you're not going to get run over in a car because you're on a trail. And you're not going to fall down and break your hip because you're on a trail. You're not on concrete. And I'm going through all these stupid things like I'm 90 years old.
Yeah.
And I go, so what if you fucking fall? Run. And my heart's pounding. I'm sweating, right? Because it's like the PTSD of all this pain I've had for years. And I go, just fuck it and run. And what I realized is I was visualizing the negative instead of visualizing the positive. And it's easy to say, and it comes back to like your friends going, your podcast where you were vulnerable and transparent, sharing how that rocked your confidence, allowed them to, and that changes your relationship with them.
Right.
But it also allows you, as long as you're not milking it, you just let it go, and you go, okay, time to fucking get back to work.
Sure. Yeah.
But I did the run, 50 yards, and just focused on like good technique and movement and breathing. And I got there, and I started crying. And I called Eric, and I said, oh my God, dude, I just ran for the first time in a few years. And he's yelling on the phone, I'm so happy for you. And I said, dude, like this shit's working. And he goes, yeah, like imagine that.
Yeah.
You know, you're doing the work.
Yeah.
And I said to him, and this is the whole point of this, and hopefully everyone out there laughs, and hopefully you do. Not like you laughed at my sushi reel. I said to him, like every idiot athlete, so how much longer am I going to have to do these exercises for?
Right.
And he goes, he pauses,
Yeah.
and he goes, the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, of course, the rest
Right.
of my life.
Right.
How much longer should I eat properly and
Right.
work out, Jay?
Exactly.
Yeah, the rest of your life, idiot.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how we do that, right? Like how many of your clients are like, you know, just they get to a point and then they just stop. You're like, no.
Yeah. Now, is that why you feel 100? I mean, obviously, there's probably a few things, but what do you attribute to feeling 100 times better than last year? So a lot of the foundation stuff from Eric.
So foundation, I also started working with this guy, very fascinating, Dr. Andrew Locke out of Australia.
Okay.
And I had you know my tactical get up. You probably don't know. It's like it's a way to get up off the ground tactically.
Right.
Hence the name, the tactical get up.
Yeah.
And we show it to our military. If they can do it a long gun, they can do it kit, they can do a handgun. It's a very technical. It's 3 stages. Well, about a year ago, I went to go do it, and as I did it, my abs. You ever get a stomach spasm cramp?
Yeah.
Insane, like
worse.
freaky, right?
Yep.
My ab and my hamstring cramped at the same time, and I'm like, whoa! And I tried to do it again, and suddenly I can't get up off the ground without getting up like a knife. I got to be careful of everything because some nerve's going to fire this, and so he heard about me through, I think it was Gunnar Peterson, or somehow we connected, and we get on a FaceTime call. And he says, like I tell him my story. He says, okay, we're going to come together. We're going to work together. And he says, what is something you can't do that you would like to do? Because maybe if we start there, we can rebuild your confidence. And this is, again, another great example of like an intuitive, like genius level coach. Because I've had people over the years where I go, I got back pain, I got neck pain, I got this. And they do an assessment and they just give me another spreadsheet.
Right.
Like of something they learned from a course they got certified in, but it's not addressing my fears and my needs.
Yeah.
He went right to something psychological. What's something you can't do anymore that you want to do? And I was like, I teach self-defense 4 times a week live online, and I can no longer teach anything getting up from the ground because I'm afraid, like on a live call, to go, like it, right? And not just look like an idiot.
Yeah.
But like the pain is insane. So I describe what the tactical getup is. I sent him a videotape of when I could do it. And he says, okay. He says, I'm in California for a month. I'm going to come over. We're going to work together. I'm going to do an assessment. And then you're going to do a tactical getup. I'm like, okay. He comes over and he goes, your glutes are not working at all. And you got this pelvic tilt, and he goes through a whole bunch of shit, and he gives me like this variation of a clam and some other stuff, and he gives me 3 or 4 things to do, and he says, you're going to do this every day, twice a day, 50 reps. It's the frequency of it, and you're going to do that like at least 10,000 reps for 3 months before you're going to see anything. So I'm going, okay. So I start doing it, and I go, and about this tactical get up, FYI, not interested. Like if I would think about it, my heart would start to rate because the pain was insane.
Yeah.
And it was a cascade of things, Jay, almost like you finally revealing and talking about your experience, and other people connecting to that is when it starts to come out, you start to realize like it wasn't just this, it was also a little bit of this, a little. So for me, it wasn't just the pain. It was also, I felt vulnerable as a tactical athlete and as a protector, where I would go, what if I get knocked to the ground?
Yeah.
And I gotta get up to protect my kids. Like, so that, like, and as I started to think about it, it wasn't just, oh, this hurts, I'll stay away from it.
Yeah.
You know, I got a crack in one of my teeth. So I chew on the right side, right?
Okay.
I'll get it fixed when I get it fixed, right? But it's not like when I think about the tactile get up, it's like if I get dropped and I got to get up, I'm going to get killed because I can't even get up tactically.
Yeah.
So it was that. It was the pain. It was like a whole bunch of things. It was also disingenuous as a coach, right? Someone said to me, hey, can you teach us how to get off the ground tactically? I go, next class. Like that's a stupid question. Why would you? Right? Like, what am I going to do?
Right.
So he goes, he works with me for 2 weeks. On the 3rd week, he says, we're going to do a tactical get up next week. And I'm like, really? He goes, he messaged me the day before. When I come over Thursday, we're going to do a tactical get up. And I go, I want you tonight to visualize the tactile get-up. I said, okay. He comes over, he goes, tell me what you visualized. I said, I visualized my hamstring cramping and my stomach cramping and I'm falling down and yelling. He goes, well, that's a problem, Tony. Right? But he was into like the fear part.
Yeah.
And he said, you're not going to do it if you don't see yourself doing it.
Right.
And then he gave me a couple of really weird light kettlebell exercises where I was just doing some different angles, and then another exercise for my adductors, and he had me do like 15 reps of this, 15 reps of this. He said, see the tactical get up, go down and do it. And it fucking popped up. And I was like, what magic is this? I was like, what? How did you do that?
Yeah.
But it was a combination of managing fear, because the mind navigates the body.
Right.
And right, like there's no such thing as muscle memory in the literal sense. Your mind has to say, do this, you got to see that. And then the neural patterns got to fire the right neurons to send the message to do it. And some of my stuff had turned off, but he was experienced enough as a coach to know exactly what was turned off. Where I had other coaches that I paid a shitload of money to who never asked the question, never talked about fear, and never looked at like the neurokinetic connections. So
It's interesting that you were visualizing the worst, and you should know better,
right,
as the fear management guy. There's certain people, right, who seemingly can't do that. Like Arnold, for example, can only visualize success. If you go, hey, you're going to do this thing, anything's going to be great, right? If you grew up in a situation where you were told, like you said, right, in the 60s, oh, you're going to be shit, you can't do this, glass is half empty, all that kind of shit. Can you ever fully reframe that with enough training and become someone
to be
like
more optimistic?
Yeah, become someone like Arnold, who just is like, yeah, whatever I do, I'm only visualizing what if it goes well. Most people, I would say most people, right, visualize what's
negative,
all the things that can go wrong.
Yeah. So I don't think, and maybe, hypnotism or doing, like some like crazy exotic thing in the jungle somewhere.
Right.
But I think our code is our code. What the way I teach it and explain it is this, and I've proven this, where I go, like, everybody can experience a fear spike, and the fear spike will automatically, because of neurobiology, create a fear loop where you're visualizing something negative. The goal is, between stimulus response, is something called refractory delay. The goal is, like in how we teach startle flinch conversion, is I can flinch like this while you're hitting me, or I can flinch and then immediately charge the threat. And so you can't not flinch if you're surprised, but what you can do is re-engage quickly if you've trained your emotional, psychological, and biomechanic self to convert the flinch, where you're using all of that together. So the goal, like when I coach people on fear management, and I just want to say something that might come across as a shameless plug, and I suppose it is, I've been living with fear my whole life, and I've created a pretty successful life.
Yeah, for sure.
Spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, family, wife, dogs, friends, material bullshit.
Yeah.
But so when people think in the back of your head, they don't say this out loud, why should I learn from you? I go, you don't want to learn how to manage fear from Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right. 100%.
You want to learn how to manage fear from somebody who manages fear.
Yeah. Just like you don't want to learn basketball from Michael Jordan. You want to learn from somebody shitty, like probably Phil Jackson wasn't a great player, right?
And this, this is something, when I'm doing our Train the Trainer courses, I ask people who, and of course we both love Ali, I go, you have 15 minutes. This is a coach's course. You have 15 minutes to talk to and take a picture with Angela Dundee or Muhammad Ali. Who do you choose? Go. And everyone says Ali.
Yeah.
And I go, you want nothing more. You've spent a lot of money to come to my coaching course. Ali never coached anybody.
Yeah.
But Angela Dundee coached Sugar Ray Robinson,
Right.
Sugar Ray Leonard, and Cassius Clay.
Yeah.
Why don't you want to sit with Angela Dundee and go, how did you do that? What are you doing? Right?
Right.
So but how do we also become our own coach? That's the self-awareness connection.
Yeah.
How did I not realize that for, a year I was afraid to do the tactical get-up because of the psychology of fear, that I was creating more emotional, psychological weight, right? But truth is, I had like legitimate biomechanic dysfunction that was crazy,
Right.
creating insane pain.
Yeah.
Like, why would you step on your foot? Like if your foot was broken and the bone was coming out,
Yeah.
you're hopping around. Don't be a pussy, step down. Visualize it's okay. No, my foot's broken, right? Right. I had something broken. He was able to fix that, but he was also had the, and this is the message here, he had the genius intuition to go, what are you thinking? Recognizing there's a connection between the emotional, psychological.
Let me ask you something real quick there. That brought up a point when you said, okay, I could flinch like this and just be on defense, or I could flinch and react, right?
Right.
So what about in a hypothetical, you are nervous about public speaking. They say, hey, you got a public speaking event November 26th. Would that response be, oh, fuck, instead of sitting here freaking out about it until November 26th, I find somewhere locally that I can go speak, like being active and aggressive and offensive?
It could be, but this is the Sean question, my fighter guy. What are you nervous about? That's stupid. I could have said, okay, good.
Yeah.
I like my talk. You're supposed to be nervous.
Yeah.
So, because I coach people on public speaking, and you helped me, prepare a speech recently where I was going to go talk to 2,000 people, and I had 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, you were probably laughing inside when you go, like, I've never heard Tony give like a single answer in less than 30 minutes.
No.
Right? So I was terrified of that talk.
Right.
But I'm not afraid of public speaking.
Yeah.
I was afraid when it was the biggest audience I would ever talk to. And it was in like a famous like place, like being in like the Vatican or something, like some insane auditorium. I don't know if you saw the pictures of the place.
Yeah.
It was just like so that's daunting. Like, because you can go to a big audience in a bingo hall, and there's no stage, and you only see like the first 15 people in front of you.
Yep.
And my big fear was, how am I going to say something meaningful in 30 minutes?
Yeah.
Because all of my talks are 4 hours or 8 hours or 5 days.
Right.
And it was like, what am I going to talk about? So what was interesting, to your point, because you gave a very specific example, someone listening to this gets told they've got to do a talk. And one of the things you can do is, find local places to do a talk and get over yourself, get over the nerves, identify it. But you might find out that, your fear is the spotlight. Or like I got here and the lights were so intense that I actually found myself, because I love connecting to people, I stepped right to the edge of the stage so that I could look right at people.
Yeah.
Because back 3 feet, I couldn't see shit.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Where other speakers, they had like speakers all day, were like just in the spotlight doing, and I went, okay, they've done this before and they're okay with that. I wasn't.
Yeah.
But I didn't let it freak me out. I just said, well, you at the back can't see me anymore. Sorry, but you can hear me. So the answer could be that. What I did in my case is I wrote out the slides that I wanted, and I created 3 or 4 meetings that week where nobody knew I was rehearsing.
Oh,
but I had the slides there where I said, hey, let me bounce something off you. And I would just talk through the stuff so I felt my stories connect. Like, do these 21 slides, like, can I tell them because I'm a storyteller. And then what was amazing is Ben Greenfield was one of the talkers, one of the speakers. And I changed my presentation twice, like what the assistant's name. I go, hey, I got to change this. I got to put this in here. And she's like, okay, get it to me fast. We needed this on Monday, and it's Wednesday, and I've changed it. And now the talk is on, I think, Thursday or Friday. And Ben is down, like, he walks by, we get introduced, and he goes, okay, I'm going to go, I'll get that to you right away. I got to switch some slides around because I thought I had more time. And she goes, okay, like, and he's like up in an hour, and I see him moving his slides around. I go, okay. I start thinking about mine. I text her, her name's Carrie. I go, hey, Carrie, like, don't kill me. And she's like, "Oh my God, Tony." Like, I go, I'm right after Ben.
Yeah.
So I sent her a new presentation. They got it up there, and then they had this giant clock, like with the time.
Yep.
But they had it in 24-hour time.
Right.
And I would like it didn't connect to it, so it's saying like 30:15 or something. And I'm like, what time is this? So I stop right in the middle of my talk, and I go, "How much time do I have left?"
Yeah.
And they go,
3 minutes?
3 minutes.
Oh, shit.
And I go, 3 minutes. I go, and I go, well, that's not happening. And I got like 6-7 slides left. I said, here's the good thing. And everyone, I had an opening video, like showing like my background, because the whole talk was on fear.
Yeah.
But it was basically the hero reel of like all the people I've trained.
Yeah.
Military, law enforcement. So everyone knew, okay, this guy's a badass.
Right.
So I said, well, that's not happening. And the good thing is there's nobody here that can throw me off the stage. So I'm just going to finish my slides. And the whole place erupted.
Yeah.
And I was probably about 5 minutes late, but I rushed through it. But to your point, you know, people pay me a lot of money to teach them how to manage fear. And then they're blown away when I say, look, I still have fear. And they're like, I go, look, this isn't, like, we're not exercising fear, like not exercise, like
Yeah.
The Exorcist.
With O.
You don't, nobody gets to have no fear. That's why I never liked the slogan, even though I
Yeah.
bought all the shirts.
Yeah.
If something is out of your comfort zone, you will have fear. And it doesn't mean it's debilitating. And in my case, it was like, hey, you know, the guy who invited me, I came and did a fear management talk to his C-suite. It was 20 people in a conference room, sitting in there high-fiving, talking, chilling, talking like this. I loved it. Then it was like, hey, I want you to come talk. I'm doing this fundraiser. Badass. Yeah, it's at this location, 2,000 people. During the week, I don't know if I told you this, every time they called or text, I actually was hoping, they said, hey, man, we can't have you. We're overbooked.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I wanted them to cancel me.
Huh.
Like just that,
Yeah.
the fear in the back of my head, I was like, oh, a message from them.
Right.
Oh, everything's okay. That's my hotel.
Yeah.
Oh, this is my flight information.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to go.
Wow.
Isn't that wild?
I've had that exact same thing.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I make a joke in the presentation. I go, like, if I gave you like a shirt, your job now, Jay, here's your polo shirt and here's your name tag.
Okay.
And it says Jay Ferrugia, fear manager. Right? Like that's your name tag. I should get that for my, like a little name tag. But that's what we all are. We're
Right.
fear managers. And when we can't tell our coach, which is ourself or our spouse or our management or our friends, really fucking scared about this. What are you afraid about? What can we do? Because then you reframe it, you share the fear, that dissipates some of its hold, and it allows us to turn fear into fuel, which then becomes courage. And I think I told this in our very first interview. If not, it's a great one, because some people think, you know, you brought up like a Michael Jordan or a Schwarzenegger, and we all have people that are unicorns in our life. They don't ever lose a fight. Everything they do turns to gold. No bad deals. Never been betrayed.
Right.
Right. And so because they're unicorns, I always tell people this. I go, like, who's the unicorn in your life? The person that you look up to and go, man, I would love that. I go, the fact that you have a unicorn means you're not the unicorn, which means you can't be that unicorn.
Right.
Get over it. You need to manage your fear and design the life you want. What's your workout? What's your wife or your husband look like? How are you going to raise your kids? And then do your best to make that happen. There's a lot of people that think my approach to managing fear is garbage, because I'm not a psychologist or whatever, even though I train psychologists and I have professional psychologists that use my stuff in their practice. But I remember being at Fort Bragg, having a meeting with these two operators the week before the course. We go over the plan, what's going to be our, like what I'm going to cover. And we're sitting there, and one of the guys says to me, yeah, I love your mindset stuff, the whole fear management thing, and it's great. We'll do that block, and we'll do the force on force stuff and multiple sale and stuff. Okay, great. And he goes, hey, by the way, I'm I'm going jumping this afternoon. Do you want to come? And he means skydiving, of
Yeah.
course, right? And I go jumping, like up and down, and I do this. And he goes, ha, ha, ha. He goes, no, like jumping out of an airplane. I said, hold on, let me check my chest schedule. No, I'm not going. He leans towards me, Jay, and he goes, I thought you're Mr. Fear Management with air quotes. I go, yeah, I'm managing my fear. I'm managing my fear by not jumping out of the airplane,
Yeah.
right? And he laughs, and the guy beside me, who's his colleague in the same unit, laughs, but it was a nervous laugh.
Mm.
And I said, you don't have any fear? And she said, I love it, man. I got over 600 jumps. I go every time I can. I said, okay, but you have no fear? He goes, no. I go, okay. I said, you know, my wife doesn't let me fold my T-shirts because I'm so shit at folding.
Okay.
Like I try to help, and she goes, move. I might do it on purpose so she folds it, but she's like, get out of here, like, and she folds it. So I just want you to know how bad I am at folding, and what I'm offering is to fold your parachute for your jump.
Yeah.
And he goes, he looks and he leans, he goes, you're not coming anywhere near my parachute. And I said, fear? And he goes, fuck. And I said, what did you just visualize there? He said, I visualized a malfunction when I saw somebody else folding my shirt, my parachute. And what I explain to people here is they were both qualified to jump, but one guy liked it, one guy hated it. Both were good at it.
Yeah.
The guy on my right with the nervous laugh, he managed his fear. And so if I was going to take skydiving lessons, I don't want to take it from a 22-year-old Red Bull sponsored athlete with a death wish.
Right.
I want to find a 55-year-old jump master who fought in 3 wars and he's still alive.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if I'm going to get
Have
fitness,
you ever jumped to this day?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Twice. Scary as shit.
Yeah.
And I did crazy stuff on my second jump, which is a tandem jump. I actually said, I want you to pretend that the chutes don't open. Like I really forced that thought. You know, what are you going to do? And I did that as I jumped out of the airplane, which was insane. And I'm glad the chutes opened because I have no idea what I would do. But what was interesting is like if I'm going to call somebody and get bodybuilding fitness advice, I want somebody who, don't let this go to your head because I know you're just getting your confidence back, but I want somebody that looks like you, fucking ripped and strong, you know, and we'll delete that part, you know. But also, like, how old are you now?
49.
Crazy. You don't look a day over 52, man. You look great.
I appreciate it.
But like, so you're like a 50-year-old athlete, like with a body of a fucking 32-year-old, right? And so everyone like that's your billboard.
Yeah.
Look, I'm fucking doing what I'm going to tell you to do.
Right.
Whereas you look online now, and there's influencers in their 20s talking to you about longevity.
Yeah. It's
I'm
crazy.
going, dude, you're fucking 20.
Yeah.
Talk to me about longevity.
Right.
Right? Let me see you when you're 63.
Yeah. Does it, just as a weird aside, does it drive you nuts if you see some of those guys who are in their 20s and say, you got to get up at 3 and be disciplined and work hard and make money and all that
It's funny. I just saw a great clip from Hormozy
shit? Okay.
where he said, all these guys that talk about their ice bath and cold shower and getting up at this and that, he said they forget that they didn't do that while they built their empire. You do that when you're successful.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And he's true. He's true. He's, I don't know, kind of sentence that. He's correct for the most part. But we've learned a lot about self-regulation and, you know, of course, ice baths and cold plunging has, you know, created a whole industry and a fad. But there's a lot of evidence that says, you know, like the other day I was feeling like shit. And I got up in the morning and I jumped in my sauna, and then I've got, you know, my pool that's not heated, and I jumped in that from, you know, 160 degree into, like, the water might have been 62, but it felt like it was 40 because of the difference. And my body went zap. And next thing I know, I'm yelling, wahoo, and I'm fucking alley shadow boxing under the water. And I get out in a good mood, and I'm like, I'm gonna start a trend where contrast therapy is good for you. Like it's good for you.
Yeah.
I the the long answer to it is when somebody tries to sell it as the way that you have to do it, that's the problem.
Yeah.
And I think Hormozy's point is, like, if you're an entrepreneur, you still got to do the work.
Right.
And if the work means you got to work for 24 hours for 3 days straight, I had a really cool talk with Dan Caldwell, who started the Tap Out brand,
Okay.
yesterday on my podcast, and I got to have you back on the podcast. And we're talking about how when he was building Tap Out with Charles, that like how that affected his family, and now he's married and has new kids, and he doesn't want to make those mistakes again. So that's his whole focus is on like entrepreneurs and families. And it got really heavy for me at a point, and I held back like what could have been an emotional moment where I realized, like, I built my company and spent decades on the road, 1 year, 260 plus days teaching in different cities all over the world, where like now, if I come home and say to my kids, hey, you want to go, you want to go to dinner, you want to go to a movie, my kids just say no, because I was gone so long.
Right.
I was gone so often, and it's a regret and a guilt that I'll always carry. But it was a nice talk, because I realized in the conversation, he said they know that you love them and you did this all, but it doesn't take back that time. And I guess opened a kind of a Pandora's box rabbit hole here, where if you can build, because your question was, what do you think about these guys saying, like, this is the routine, this is the routine? There's a quote that got me through, in the 80s, like the craziness of building my company, and then in the 90s, having Nick and getting sole custody of him at 9 months old. I had sole custody of Nick.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. Unheard of in Canada for the man, and just like still trying to grow my business and like having literally to take a 9-month-old on the road, like for 6 weeks, because I couldn't afford a nanny, and here I am, samurai and son, crazy stuff. But I'm like if someone said, hey, you're meditating in the morning, right, and you're doing your ice bath, and then you're going for a walk, and then you're journaling, I go, no, it's like, I didn't know men could breastfeed back then, or I'd done that, but I was feeding my son like a bottle, like then, and then taking him in the stroller over to the seminar where I hired, the sister of the host to watch my kids so I could teach, because I had a vision of what I wanted to build for the world.
Wow. Yeah.
And so I had somebody said, here's a 90-minute routine that'll keep your cortisol level down and help. I said, I don't fucking have time for that.
Sure.
So who's right? Now I try to do that stuff, but it's 40 years later,
Right.
and I can go, cancel my meeting. I want to go take a sauna.
Yeah. Give me some other practical tips. Just I want to cover actually also the program too that we're going to be, but just on a day-to-day basis, right? We all have a million fears all day. Like, just some other things, like practical steps.
So the psychology of fear, and here's the thing is, let's go back to that Fort Bragg story for a second. The guy says, I'm not afraid of skydiving, and I go, I'll pack your chute for it. And he goes, whoa, you're not touching my chute. And suddenly he's visualizing, a malfunction, but he still went skydiving.
Yeah.
In other words, he cleared his fear.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's stupid. And then he maybe double check stuff like Will, when I said, hey, is the camera rolling? And he goes, I got to check it 5 times to make sure, right?
Right.
So those of us who aren't Schwarzeneggers, I go, Jay, why don't you try this? And you go, oh man, I don't want to go through that again, right?
Yeah.
But maybe we'll talk about it. We'll see. Here's the other thing. We also have faces for different people. Your client says something, and you go, okay, this guy's not going to make it unless he changes this and everything. You go, hey, I got you, man. You got this. And you're going, I give this guy 2 months, right?
Yeah.
Right. But like as an entrepreneur, you're not gonna fire him right away, because maybe you can turn him around.
Yeah.
The message I tell people is this: you got to teach people they're a fear manager. And the only way we can manage fear is if we talk about fear. We can't milk it. We can't go, oh, could you help me? Like, don't spot me. Could you actually do the lift for me? Like, no, you got to do the rep.
Yeah.
So the metaphor there is our goal then is to shorten the time between stimulus and response. You say to me, hey, let's work out after this. And I go, that always hurts my back. I don't want to do that. And you go, I'm glad you told me that. We're going to warm it up differently, and we're going to try this, and let me know how that, right? You coach me through a movement so that I regain my confidence. So that's really the strategy and the psychology of it, where I tell people, like, when you do our no fear course, you're not going to have no fear. You're going to get to no fear. And then anything outside your comfort zone, you need to notice it, so that now what you're doing is you're cultivating better self-awareness, and you're taking fear and you're shaping it into something useful, as opposed to always being afraid of fear.
Yeah.
And that was the big epiphany, fancy word for light bulb moment, where I realized as a young athlete, I was a really good athlete, always got picked, I wasn't picked last and you'll be the water boy. But when it came time to compete, I always failed to live up to my potential, not because I wasn't good, not because I didn't understand the game. It wasn't because I was afraid of you when we were sparring in boxing or kickboxing. I was afraid of the fear I had. I would ask myself, if I'm prepared, why am I scared?
Yeah.
But nobody was teaching about the psychology of fear versus the physiology of fear. And that's the big message. So, I don't know. You asked me, give me some examples.
Well, let me take something ultra specific, because they always say the number one fear is public speaking, right? But not everyone's getting up on stage every day.
Right.
But I think most people are in their heads that everyone's judging them in some way, shape, or form. And on a daily basis, you may be uncomfortable somewhere in some way, shape, or form, right? Like maybe you've exceeded the number of people at the table that you're comfortable with.
Correct.
So that's just a general fear every day. Maybe you got to have a tough conversation with your son or your wife or something. Like,
100%.
How do you address those type of things?
And that's an amazing question. It's one of the when someone says to me, I'm afraid of public speaking, can you help me? I go, well, you're doing fine.
That's a great
right?
answer, yeah.
And they go, what are you talking
fantastic.
about? I go, well, we're in public and we're speaking.
Right.
And I go, pay me. And they go, and they laugh. And I go, like, seriously, man, what's the issue here? They go, well, obviously, like, not one-on-one. I go, well, like, do you have friends, family? You ever go to dinner? They go, yeah. I go, do you, like, when you're out, let's say with your family, wife and 2 kids, like, what do you text each other because you're afraid of public speaking? They go, okay, I get where you're going with this. I'm afraid of, and I go, what you're saying is you're afraid of the numbers? I go, I don't believe that. I think you're afraid of something not going well.
Yeah.
And we got to figure out what that is.
Yeah.
Do you know your topic? Right? So if you go, I'm afraid I'm going to draw a blank. So you could say to me, Jay, using as an example, I'm going to do this new talk on nutrition and this idea connecting to that. And I'm afraid I'm just going to draw a blank. Really? Like, you've forgotten more things about nutrition and freaking, like, how could you possibly do that?
Right.
What are you really afraid of? Well, I'm afraid that, what if I lose my speech, my voice? What are you talking? You're making up shit now. What are you really? I had an athlete I was working with who said, every time I get this fear before a competition, I feel like I'm going to die. So I looked at her, I said, how many times have you died in the last 10 years? And she's like, never. I go, then shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Right. But then you turn that into, okay, break the ice. What are you worried about? And then you find out, well, there's a book publisher there that I've been trying to meet who's coming to listen to my talk, right? And you find out, and then I go, fuck him.
Yeah.
You don't, and there's all sorts of strategies. So like this morning, my wife Jessie says, I gotta have a talk. They'll never watch the show, so I can say with Jorge and Madison, because there's things they're doing. They live with us at the house. There's things they're doing that are really, it's an uncomfortable conversation. And I said, well, just it doesn't have to be uncomfortable. Why is it uncomfortable? Could be a great conversation. She goes, well, okay, so I need you to have that conversation with them. I go, well, no, you need to do it.
Yeah.
You need to have that. Well, no. And it's like, well, what are you worried about happening? Like, if you don't say anything, the behavior doesn't change.
Right.
And then one day there's a huge fight.
Yeah, yeah.
Or you sit down and you find a way to sneak it in. Or you sit down and go, hey, I'm going to do quavering voice on purpose. Hey, I've been trying to have this conversation with you, and I'm fucking nervous about it. Like, ultimately it comes out and people are like, what were you so nervous about? Why did you wait so long to tell me?
Yeah.
Like, people... But this is the human condition.
Yeah.
We're afraid to say, I said it an hour ago. We're afraid to say, I'm sorry. We're afraid to say, I love you. You know, how many times have you had a fight with your significant other, same with me, where you go, I can't believe we're going to do this. It's going to last 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk. We're going to be like, you know, stupid shit. And then I'm not even going to remember what this was about. Does that ever happen to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Look, I thought I was the only one because you looked at me weird.
Well, you know why? Because it's funny. It's so funny. I had that almost exact conversation recently a couple times, and someone was like, hey, you know how you get pissed when someone does this? And I go, no. And they go, all right, you know how when you're in traffic and someone cuts you off and you lose your mind? I go, no. Because I've trained myself not to do that anymore. Because I used to be super fucking reactive because I grew up in a household of, you know, Scottish people and Italian people losing their fucking minds all the time. It's very hard for me to get angry at shit anymore. Like, I feel like I've developed that kind of mastery over my emotions.
Well, that might...
And you know what, I feel like one of the, and you would agree with this, one of the things that causes the most trouble for most people is your desire or your need to be right. That's why street fights happen, right? Because you said something, I got to be right. I got to prove myself. That's why you go to war, whatever. I got to be right. I wouldn't say 100%, but I identified that years ago, and I really worked on what is the need to be right. Why do I have that need to be right?
So what did you do to fix it? Because this goes back to you asking me, can we untrain or retrain like a behavioral pattern?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there was one specific thing. It was just a lot of books and practice. And when I first moved here, I moved 3,000 miles to reinvent myself and work on all these false narratives and self-limiting beliefs. And the first 3 years, I don't know if you noticed, when I would go home, I would get sick to my stomach on the flight because I was like, fuck, I'm going to turn back into the same person. I'm going to get easily sucked into those fights and screaming. And sure enough, I'd be at my mom's house. And let's say I got there at 3 p.m. By 6 p.m., bottles are flying. We're screaming, breaking shit. And I just realized that, like, I'm allowing her to sucker me, or whoever it was, not just my mom. My mom's great. I'm allowing anyone to control my emotions. And why? Because I need to be right about something. Like if someone said, hey, remember that time we did that thing in 1986? And I go, no, it was 1987. And they go, no, it was 1986. And 1986. Like, why? What the fuck are we doing, right? And I realized I was really just like kind of analyzing these battles with my mom and my family. I was like, what am I getting out of that? I'm right. She says one thing, and I said, no, it's the other thing. I'm right. And you're winning nothing for being right. You know, like my wife will say things a lot of times, and I'll be like, okay, cool, yeah, so what time's the game? I'm going to go meet Tony. We're going to podcast. Like, I don't go, no, you're wrong. Like, I don't know. I just worked on that, and it's life-changing, I think.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I disagree with you, but which one of us is right now? No, I mean, but that's that self-awareness, mastery of the mind.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Are there, lie down, tell me about your childhood. Are there any people or situations where you do feel that anger, rage, frustration building, or have you completely weaned it out of your system?
It doesn't happen that often. And, you know, from being like a hot-headed Italian or something, it was always like, you couldn't not scream at the dinner table, right? Pass me the salt or something, you know what I mean? It's like, so it's so rare now. It's
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like for me, you know, this is the thing. I mean, we started talking about like public speaking is if you can figure out why, you know, like how many people, especially guy to guy, say, hey man, I love you, see you later. Like how many guys say that?
It's very rare.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like around the same time I addressed this that I'm talking about was the same time that I could say I love you to everybody. I mean, you see me, I hug and say I love you. Yeah. But it's very rare.
And notice when you say it to certain people, how they can't say it back to you.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So everyone's still working through like that stuff. That's all self-awareness stuff. And it's I mean, freaking, like, figuring out life is just like an insane, like, it's a tapestry journey. All the cliches there, where you just figure out, you know my boy Nick well.
Yeah.
I tell him things and text him things, and I'll say, hey, take a screenshot of this and save this. This is going to be really important.
Yeah.
And I know that he's reading it and he goes, thanks, Pops. And I know he's going, this doesn't apply to me, old man. Because, like, I'd have people, like, when I was in my 20s and 30s go,
Right.
you should do. And I'm going, that doesn't apply to me. I'm kind of invincible.
Yeah.
And I'm a unicorn, right?
Yeah.
And you find out that you're not.
Yeah.
So it's just, again, because you can't legislate humility. You can't legislate wisdom. You can't fake experience. You can fake confidence, but you can't, a buddy of mine, Mark Alala, like OG martial artist, he and I were talking like 30 years ago. He said, you can't fake endurance. And I always use that. I told people, like, you can't, when you're tired in a fight, you can't say, okay, hold on a second, right? Because your opponent's going to go, you're tired?
Yeah.
Great, I'm just getting started, motherfucker. Here
Right.
we go. So there's certain things that and this is my whole thing. Like part of my journey now, this chapter, is getting parents and coaches to understand that when you teach people how to think about fear from the psychological point of view, you create better athletes, better communicators, better humans, better critical thinkers. And holy shit, the world needs critical thinking right now more than ever.
Yeah. Yeah. Explain to people a little bit about what's in the course. We're going to put the link in the show notes.
Yeah, and I wore the human weapon shirt.
Yeah.
And it is, so, as you know, and some people don't know here, I've been studying violence, fear, and aggression for over 40 years, and put together a program that is based on real science, right? Neurobiology, understanding what triggers a flinch, understanding how that if a stimulus is introduced too quickly, if I was talking right now and you kicked me with that foot, and I went, Jay, and you went whack, and you kicked me, I'm not going to go, I'm not going to do a kung fu move. I'm going to go, whoa, and I'm going to flinch. If you're outside and a bird flies into you, flinch. Everyone has flinched. And here's the thing I always tell people: think about the hundreds, maybe thousands of times you've flinched in your life, and never once have you said to yourself, that's coming at my face really fast, you should flinch now.
Right.
Right. So flinching is a non-conscious movement. And what I discovered in the 80s and then developed drills around it is that your executive function is hijacked when you flinch. And what that means in layperson's terms is your access to your wax on, wax off, your complex motor skills to block, slip, if you have any martial arts skills, or if you have no martial arts skills, you can access it while your brain and body's flinching. And I figured out ways to weaponize the flinch, to convert it into a protective movement, almost like a biological airbag. So that if I went to hit you and you started to flinch, your body would know a very specific shape to take, almost like you were expanding like a Swiss ball, like in front of something. So that punch or that headbutt or that tackle got absorbed by the cross extensor chain of the startle flinch expanding.
Right.
And it's amazing. It works for everybody, regardless of gender, regardless of experience. Well, in part of the study of that, I created a whole protocol on de-escalation, on managing fear, on tactical fitness. For example, to this day, military and police academies still do jumping jacks. Do you do jumping jacks with your clients?
Very rarely.
Jumping jacks is a fun way to warm up, but it has zero tactical application. There's no movement in the world.
Right.
And I make the joke, the only tactical application of jumping jacks is you're stranded on a desert island and you've already eaten your friend. You decided to go carnivore, like you're going to die. So you killed him, you ate him, and you're like dying. And then you hear a rescue plane. And the only way to get its attention is to do jumping jacks, but you never learn them. So you're like, I'm down here, instead of going, I'm down here, right?
Yeah.
So we created a whole protocol. Like there's 10 chapters in this program. It's called the Human Weapon System Program. It will make anybody safer if they've trained or not. If you're a black belt in any martial art, it'll make you safer. If anyone does any research on me, I train trainers at the highest level.
Yeah.
Tier 1, all the way down.
Yep.
So this isn't like, who is this guy? What's this acronym? Like I've been teaching longer than Like I've been teaching 43 years,
Right.
right? So there's 10 chapters from de-escalation, nonviolent posture, tactical fitness, groundwork, our close quarter tool, demystifying our close quarter tool. Like if I say, hey, I want you to learn this elbow that I learned in Thai boxing and also Korean Tang Soo-Do, suddenly I've mystified it.
Mm-hmm.
But if I say to you, hey, you're driving in your car, and all of a sudden you realize you forgot to put your seatbelt on, and you got an older car, it's not beeping, and you see a cop, and you immediately, I'm going to move the mic real quick, you immediately go like this. That's a fucking elbow. So we show about 9 different moves that you already do where you've got the biomechanic, range of motion, kinetic chain already built. Then we teach you how to add aggression to it. So there's a whole chapter on, you might go, man, and listen, this isn't like, oh, the sky is falling, but the world is getting crazy.
Yep.
And more importantly than that, spontaneous violence is occurring in random neighborhoods in daylight. Mm-hmm. It used to be, don't go there after dark.
Yeah.
Right? And now, this isn't like be paranoid. This is like every man and woman should be able to spot danger, have the courage to emotionally, psychologically move from it. Because a lot of people have trouble avoiding. They're like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not leaving. And so I tell people it takes courage. It takes courage to avoid a fight. Almost like before you figured out your self-mastery, you'd get in a fight because it was like, no, I'm not crossing the street. That guy just looked at me. So we teach the timeline of violence tells people there's a detect and avoid phase. There's a diffuse and de-escalate, the verbal, and then there's a defend phase. If you only learn a traditional approach to self-defense, you're only learning the defend phase, which means you're only learning how to get out of a headlock or how to block a punch.
Right.
And that means you're the hammer and they're the nail.
Yeah.
And in a litigious world where everyone's suing everybody, in a woke world where you run the risk of being canceled, avoidance is the greatest investment you can make. And it actually serendipitously ties into what you said, is like, I don't need to win every fight.
Yeah.
But there might be a fight you need to win. It's
sure.
a choiceless choice.
Yeah.
So Human Weapon System program, it's 10 lessons, and I filmed them with a great mic, digital camera, as if you hired me. So I'm talking to you first person like this. Put your fingers like this, do this. And there's all the lessons. It's got a 3-hour video that's included with it that shows all the drills with other people, so you can visualize what would happen if I was in an altercation. What does this look like? Some people, I just got a message today, can you really learn self-defense by video? And I'm like, well, can you learn how to cook by video? Can you learn how to think by video? I said, if you can't learn something by video, it's because you're not coachable or the coach sucks.
Right.
And my shit doesn't suck. It works
That's
for real.
Sure. Yeah.
And so
I've been fortunate enough to work with you firsthand on a few occasions, and amazing, absolutely amazing.
Thank you. Yeah.
And it's not just the information, but the way you coach is world class, next level.
Thank
and
you.
Always so entertaining and engaging, and
I mean, I like that fun. I've some of the biggest compliments. I did a seminar for a group of senior citizens one day, which was insane, right? Because they're in walkers and walking, like, in the walker, and this person's like in a wheelchair, and this person's like walking with an intravenous pack, and I'm like at this senior home, and I'm like going, holy shit, what did I get myself into? And one of the attendees comes up to me after and pinches my cheek and says, oh, you remind me of my grandson. And she said something that never, this is like in the 80s. She says, they've brought in other people to talk about safety and self-defense before, but we always leave it paranoid. You made us laugh. You made us cry.
Right.
That was so entertaining.
wow.
And I always remember, like, that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
You got to make it real.
Yeah. My friend, always a pleasure. I mean, we could do 2-3 more hours. I feel like we need to do this every month.
We could.
But thank you again. And so just let everybody know where they can follow you. Of course, you're always shadow banned on Instagram.
Shadow banned. Go follow me on Instagram, just so you can click yes or no
Yeah.
when Instagram warns you that I'm a threat to the Constitution. Right?
Yeah.
This guy's teaching people to think critically and
Right.
defend themselves. Let's ban him. Yeah, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. You know, I'm all over. Just Google. And our main website is my last name, Blauer, Blauer Training Systems, and that'll show you the 4 verticals of our company: the fear management part, our equipment company, our self-defense stuff. And if you're cop, military, firefighter, public safety, thank you for your service. We got a whole vertical for you. If you're a martial artist, we got stuff for you. And if you're just a good person who wants to be a courageous bystander, learn how to protect themselves. But check out the Human Weapon System program. I spent a year putting it together. It's an amazing course. Like you'll be safer literally.
Yeah.
Like in 6 hours after you've done it, because it's time released. I mean, we don't control it. It's like when you're ready for the next class,
Right.
you do it, and you own it. It's not a subscription.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that all subscriptions are bad, but this is like you own it. So you want to watch it again. You want to show your wife it. You want to. It's amazing some of the stories that I've heard of people using concepts to avoid what could have been a really horrible situation.
Yeah.
So I'm not teaching you how to fight. I'm teaching you to not fight, how to avoid it. But, you know, if you're in a position where you have a choiceless choice, you got some options.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you so much, my
Thank you,
friend.
buddy.
Guys, thanks
Peace
for
out.
listening. We'll talk to you next time.